Hey friends, so today we are going to do our January wrap-up. This is a little bit late, but I was just having so much fun doing tag videos over the past couple of weeks that I delayed this video. So this is my first time doing a wrap-up. I didn't do them at all last year because I had already really discussed the books in the haul and then in my TBR, so I didn't really want to discuss them again. But I think doing a wrap-up is also a really good idea because you kind of get a sense of just my overall thoughts of what I thought of the book. So the way that I'm going to do this is just kind of give you a brief overview of my thoughts. It's not going to be a full review, and I also don't want to get into too much of the synopsis of the book either because, like I said, I already did that in the haul and the TBR. So if you're looking for the synopsis of these books that I read, just go back to the previous TBR video and I give a full synopsis there. So 2021 did not have a very good start. The first book that I read was Catherine House by Elisabeth Thomas. And I had such high hopes for this book, both number one because it's dark academia, but also I had heard so many good things on BookTube about this book, and I was so eager to get to it. It was actually on my December TBR, but I didn't get to it in December, so this was the first one up in the first week of January. And I DNF'd this book. So I got about 60% of the way through, and then I just found that it was literally sitting on the coffee table and I was dreading picking it up, and I was like, you know what, there's no point in me trying to read this when I'm struggling, so I'm just gonna have done with it. So I did give this book a rating on Goodreads because like I said, I had made it about 60% through, and if I've given that much energy and that much brain power to a book, I think, you know, I can give it a rating even though I didn't completely finish it. If I read less than 50% of a book and then DNF it, then I don't give it a rating. But overall, I rated this 2 stars. So I was expecting this to be really kind of dark and, you know, like it's set in a boarding school and it's really, really exclusive, and you, like, only certain people get chosen to go into this school. And, you know, I was expecting sinister things to be happening here and kind of what's going on. And we did get a little bit of a glimpse into what was going on in this school, but it was all very strange. And I have to say, the majority of the plot honestly was following the main character, the main girl, kind of just as she was walking through every day in her life. Like, the characters were not very well developed. I found the conversations were very forced. And then the main character, in 90% of what I read, it was like she was walking around, she had a cup of tea, she had dinner, she was on academic probation because she didn't go to class, and then she walked around some more, and at one point it actually said, I picked up a stick and I put it down. And like, this was the majority of the plot, and I was really struggling with it, and I was like, it's gotta pick up, it's gotta pick up. And like I said, I was like 60% of the way through, and this girl is still walking around just drinking cups of tea and eating her dinner and just forced conversations. So I DNF Catherine House, really didn't enjoy it. You know, I can't recommend this one. So my reading did pick up after that. So I read No One Gets Out Alive by Adam Nevill. This is a massive, massive book. But again, there were so many people who had read this on BookTube, and I wanted to give it a go. It was kind of like, you know, a haunted house. So right up my alley. You know, there's voices that are crying, and this girl moves into this place and she doesn't know what's going on. But it was so much more than just a haunted house story, because the main character, Stephanie, she just was in this situation that would break your heart, and you just wanted to, you know, go hand her enough money so she could get out of this house. And, you know, she was just stuck in this situation where she had you know, this character as a landlord who was absolutely terrible, and he was creepy. Like, this dude, this knacker dude, was so creepy. Him and his brother, and they ran this house, and they, you know, there was a whole lot of gaslighting, and she was trying to get her deposit back, and he just kept telling her like the reasons why he couldn't give her money back, and she was making zero money, so she was stuck in this situation, and there's creepy shit going on in this house. And I, at no point, like, this book is like 600 pages. Yeah, 597 pages or something. And at no point did I ever feel bored with this story. It was so good, both with the situation that Stephanie was stuck in, but also with the haunting element and what was going on here. If you are going to pick up this book, I do have to warn you that there is some violence against women in this book, so there is that aspect as well. But I thoroughly recommend this book. I think I gave it a full 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. So next up, of course, Don't Call It All by Robbie Myles. Robbie is a friend of mine over on Instagram, and he sent me an arc of his first book that he wrote. And of course, I did a full review of Don't Call It All on the channel, so I'll have that link down below if you want to go check out the full review. I really enjoyed this story. The story is very much written like a Goosebumps novel. The only thing with me, it was hard for me to kind of grasp onto the type of language that these kids were using because I am very old. But it actually added to that whole feeling of everything going on, and these were just young kids, and it totally spooky story. So I would highly recommend this to anyone who enjoys like the Goosebumps or the Shivers or any of those kinds of books when they were growing up. Or of course, if you have a middle grader at home or a baby bat who's just getting into reading spooky books, this is an awesome place to start. It's creepy and spooky, and it has a very satisfying ending, but there's no gore, there's no horror element. It's just a spooky book. So I gave this one 4 stars, and like I said in my review, I absolutely loved it. I still have to order my finished copy. It just a couple of days ago became available on Amazon Canada, so I do want to get a finalized copy for my shelves. And of course, the last physical book that I read was Universal Harvester by Darnielle, and I did a full review on the channel of this book already, so I'll leave that link down below as well. I just kind of went off on this book. It was so bad. It was so poorly written. The whole thing was confusing. It didn't make any sense. The characters didn't make sense. It was poorly developed. You know, it needed some editing. I just really didn't like this read. And like I said, the author kind of wrote older women and women who are aging in a negative light, and that was a super big turnoff. So I rated this one 1 star, and that's only because I've never heard of anyone rating something 0 stars. But if that's a thing, I wouldn't give this book any stars. I really didn't like it. So moving on to my ebooks that I read this month. So we started off with Craven Manor by Darcy Coates, and this was my first Darcy Coates book. As you guys know, I'm very much into paranormal horror and hauntings and haunted houses and ghosts and just kind of, you know, books that give you those spooky feels. I grew up in a haunted house myself, and I've had a lot of experiences with ghosts, so this was right up my alley. And I have to say, I did enjoy this book. It wasn't anything spectacular, and her writing was just kind of okay for me. It wasn't great and it wasn't terrible. It was just kind of in the middle, but it did give me the creepy feels. It definitely did, and I enjoyed it. I was a little bit apprehensive because, you know, there seems to be a divide on booktube with Darcy Coates. Some people absolutely love her writing, and some people don't care for it at all, and it seems like I'm just falling right in the middle. So Darcy Coates is definitely kind of the queen of the creepy haunted house kind of stories. She has so many books like this that are out right now that have the same sort of premise. So yeah, I'll definitely read her again. I gave Craven Manor 3 stars, and I enjoyed my time with it, so I'd recommend picking it up if you're into haunted house stories. The next book I read on ebook was 12 Nights at Rotterhouse by J.W. Ocker. And this was another one that's a bit of a booktube darling. I've heard so many good things about this book, and I really enjoyed it. It's got this guy who's, kind of barricading himself into a supposed haunted house so he can get material to write a book, and he's hoping it's going to be his bestseller. And he spends 12 creepy days in this place with no contact to the outside world whatsoever. So I was totally intrigued by that, and of course I wanted to see at the end if the house was actually haunted or if there was something else going on. And I have to say, I was a little bit disappointed. It was good. I gave it 4 stars, but I was expecting it to be a lot better than it actually was. But like I said, having said that, I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. The writing was good. The story was good. And, it had a twist at the end that I didn't quite see coming. I kind of had an idea, but I didn't quite see the full story and how it ended up. And yeah, I would definitely recommend this one if you're into haunted house stories. And on ebook as well, I also read the 3rd book in the Messy Man series, and this whole series was a totally wild ride. The whole thing to me was like a fever dream. It had so much going on. The story was just completely twisted. Like if I were to do like a spoiler review for you of this entire series, I don't know how I would explain what's going on and all of the elements that are in this trilogy. It's just fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and it was written well. It was weird and it was creepy, and I just loved every single moment that I had with this series. I gave it a full 5 stars. My favorite book out of the series was still the first one, The Nightmare Room. It was fantastic, and of course, because it centers around a haunted house, that was kind of more up my alley. But then the second installment goes into a motel that has a really dark history, and then the 3rd installment kind of follows one of the characters when she was a lot younger, and she was actually my favorite character in the whole series. So I really enjoyed the 3rd one as well. It was absolutely spectacular. I would recommend anybody picking up this series. It was so good. And the last book that I read in the month of January, so I finished 8 books, was The Ravens by Kass Morgan and Danielle Paige. Again, I did a full review of this on the channel, so I'll leave that link down below if you want to hear the full review. And this turned out to be my absolute favorite read of the entire month. I found January was a bit of a mediocre kind of reading month, I would say, and I picked this one up thinking that it was just going to be kind of fun, and of course it was dark academia, and it centered around a sorority who was actually a coven of witches, which was amazing. And I thought it was going to be a mediocre read, and I absolutely loved this book. I gave it 4 stars. Not everything that I absolutely love has to be 5 stars. I gave it 4 stars, but it's fantastic. And the only downside is that I have to wait another year before the next installment comes out, which I'm really looking forward to. So there you have it, guys. Like I said, I finished 8 books in the month of January, so we're right on target. I was pleased with the reading month. It was a little bit mediocre and it got off to a bit of a rocky start, but overall I enjoyed most of the books that I read in January. Please, if you like this type of content, give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below, because I love chatting with you guys. Let me know if you've read any of these books, or if you're planning on picking up any now that you've heard kind of what I think of them. But until next time, guys, stay spooky. Bye.